Greetings, humans and Marvel fans. Rob Latoski here with the Marvel prediction video. With the success of Endgame in the past 10 years of iconic Marvel films and unforgettable heroes, it has no sign of slowing down anytime soon. So, here's a list of top 20 heroes we would love to see in the MCU. Note that the X-Men and Fantastic Four are not on this list for obvious reasons, as Kevin Feige basically confirmed that they will appear possibly at the end of Phase 4 or Phase 5. So without further ado, here's number 1 on this list, the Submariner. With the success of DC's Aquaman having grossed over $1 billion in the box office, Marvel will surely want a piece of the pie with the underwater superheroes. Although because of Aquaman's popularity, most people think that the Submariner is a ripoff of the famous DC superhero, when, in fact, Namor was created first. He was the first ever Marvel superhero, created in 1939, in the motion picture funnies number 1. Since then, he's appeared in the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and Black Panther, to name a few. He had famous rivalries with the Black Panther, and most fans are dying to see the underwater nation of Atlantis and Wakanda finally crash on the big screen. Many Marvel fans are speculating that he will be the villain in Black Panther 2, and we all agreed he'd make an amazing addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and hopefully spin off into his own franchise one day. Branching off the Submariner leads me to number 2 on this list, the Stingray. Now this is an odd one on the list, but hear me out. The Stingray is actually gaining popularity in Marvel Comics right now, fighting alongside the likes of Deadpool and the Mercs for Money series, as well as being a playable character in the Lego Avengers. If there's anything we learned about Marvel is that they like to butter up their characters and put them in the comics and put them in the forefront as a sort of proving grounds for some of these characters. Now I found an interesting article that is fake, sort of like the Onion News, but it was interesting to say the least. It was supposedly from a Comic-Con 2 years ago, and in the fake article, Kevin Feige name-drops Stingray, where he says, "Every remotely slightly semi-mainstream hero is in a movie, series, or development for use. Groot is a thing. Hellcat is in a show. There's an Ant-Man film. Hell, Squirrel Girl's been cast. We're using literally every drop in the well and absolutely killing it, I might add. So I guess we're doing a Stingray movie now? Does it even matter what character we pick?" End of quote. This alone is proof that the internet is buzzing with this rather unknown superhero. And also in the comics, Stingray actually aids Namor in search of his father, and if they like to explore Namor's origins in a solo film, there's a high possibility that this oceanographer and essentially underwater Iron Man would make an appearance. Number 3, Nova. With the MCU growing more and more cosmic with every phase, Nova is a prime candidate for his own solo film, and I believe that Marvel Studios is already in the works for a Nova script. There was an Easter egg for Nova in Spider-Man Far From Home when Peter was on the plane looking through the on-flight movies, and there was one entitled Nova, meaning hopefully he will appear soon. He's been a fan favorite for years in the comics, and exploring his story will expand upon the rich lore of the cosmic universe, and when the Guardians finish their trilogy, they may need another outlet for the other cosmic films. They may need another outlet to appear in the other cosmic films, and Nova would be a perfect. They may need another outlet to appear in the cosmic films, and Nova has been on. They may need another outlet to appear in cosmic films, and Nova has been an on and off again member of the Guardians for years now. In the Infinity War, Thanos appeared on Thor's ship with the Power Stone already in his gauntlet, meaning he had already wiped out the Nova Corps on Xandar off screen. Clearly they did this for a reason, and I believe that they will show the desolation of Nova Corps in Nova's solo film. And Richard Rider, as he's also known, will become the last remaining member of the Nova Corps in his film. And I gotta say, I'm super excited to see what they do with this character. This leads me to number 4, Captain Britain, or the Black Knight. Now, I can see these two characters appearing hand in hand. My bet is through the Loki TV series. He'll go to Britain at some point in the past, and the audience will be introduced to the Black Knight. Then, branching from that, Captain Britain can be a sort of legacy character, much like Hank Pym is to Ant-Man. And I think this would be a great way to introduce some new characters from around the globe and really diversify the Avengers team. After all, it's Earth's mightiest heroes, not just America's. And in the comics, Captain Britain got his powers from some sort of mystical amulet made by Merlin. But I'll admit, it sounds kind of cheesy for the big screen, so I can actually see them going with something a little more grounded, like Britain somehow getting their hands on a super soldier serum, and Brian Braddock somehow becoming the test subject for it. And it's been a rumor for a while that director Guy Ritchie may direct a film about the British superhero. So, if this definitely is true, this is definitely one of my most anticipated Marvel films if it does come to fruition. Number 5, Khazar. Now, you're all probably scratching your heads thinking, well, who the heck is Khazar? And I'm glad you asked. Khazar is actually Marvel's answer to Tarzan. And he's actually been around since the beginning of Marvel Comics. So he fights alongside his pet saber-toothed tiger, Zebu, in the Savage Land, which is essentially the inside of the Earth, and the only opening is through Antarctica. So, get your tinfoil hats out, conspiracy theorists, because this is one Marvel film you won't want to miss. Deep in the Hollow Earth, Khazar fights dinosaurs and all sorts of strange creatures that don't exist on the surface of the planet. And if there's anything we learn from Marvel is that they love to introduce us to new territories, such as Guardians of the Galaxy introducing us to space, Ant-Man to the quantum realm, Black Panther to Wakanda, etc., etc. In the comics, the Savage Land has played a big part in the storylines, like X-Men, the Avengers, and even Captain America lived there for a while, riding around on dinosaurs. I know I would love to see a Khazar film and the Savage Land introduced, as well as all the other races that come along with the Savage Land, like the pterodactyl people and the cat people, which brings me to number 6 on this list, Tigra. Tigra could easily be introduced through Khazar's film and spin into a full-on member of the Avengers team. I mean, the MCU is talking raccoons, trees, and aliens already in it. I don't think having a feline woman from the center of the Earth would be too much of a stretch for the audience. And I must say, that'd be totally badass seeing a cat person running around tearing up enemies with the claws. She's always been a pretty big part of the comics, and another strong female superhero would probably be welcomed with open arms in the MCU. And to be honest, she would sort of fill the gap for Black Widow after her demise in Endgame. With all things considered, I think Tigra has a lot of potential in the MCU, if introduced correctly. And that's what's really about, just introducing these characters correctly. Which brings me to number 7, the Moon Knight. Another kind of oddball superhero. He was always a favorite of mine growing up, and has a very interesting origin story. If Marvel's going for the diversity route in the future, Mark Spector is a Jewish superhero, son of a rabbi who was a boxer as well as a Marine and a mercenary. He's sort of all over the place, but he's pretty interesting nonetheless. He was given his powers when he was in Egypt and died before the statue of the moon god Khonshu. So when he died, Khonshu appeared before him and offered him a second chance at life if he would become essentially the fist of Khonshu. So Mark Spector agreed and became the Moon Knight. With his new life, he became pretty much like a Batman type figure who looks around at night and uses all these sorts of gadgets. To me, it has a lot of potential, and it would be pretty cool to see Marvel explore the area of Egypt in one of their films. And they could even make him a native of Israel instead of being a U.S. citizen in the film. And I hope they do a film instead of a TV series. And next, rounding out number 8 on this list is Storm. Now, I know I said I wouldn't have any X-Men on this list, but I think that in recent years in the comics, Storm has been more affiliated with the Black Panther than the X-Men. See, in the comics, she's a native from the nation Wakanda, and eventually marries T'Challa and becomes the Queen of Wakanda. Now, if this isn't a perfect way to introduce the X-Men into the MCU, then I don't know what is. She could easily be introduced in the second Black Panther, or maybe the third, as possibly a side character, or maybe in the after credits she meets Professor Xavier, and together they talk about forming the X-Men. However they decide to introduce her, she plays a huge part in the MCU moving forward with the X-Men and Black Panther. And speaking of the Black Panther, this leads me to number 9 on this list. Shuri as the Black Panther, or the White Tiger. Now, the White Tiger and Shuri are two completely different characters in the comics, as the White Tiger is a Puerto Rican superhero named Ava Ayala, who's relatively unknown, but whose outfit is basically a white Black Panther. Now, I think that in order to keep T'Challa's suit and Shuri's suit different in the films, they could easily just make hers white and call her the White Tiger. As in the comic, she eventually does get her own Black Panther suit, and to avoid any confusion, that would be the easiest solution. This would leave her open to becoming some sort of legacy character to carry on as Black Panther after the Black Panther 3. I know this prediction is pretty far in the future, but Shuri as a White Tiger has a lot of potential in the MCU. And now with the final entry on this list, we have the Sentry. The Sentry is one of the more controversial superheroes in the Marvel roster, but I think that he can make a very compelling character and a great addition to the Avengers. See, during the World War Hulk storyline, the Sentry was the only character who was able to stop the Hulk, as he is said to have the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, which to me is kind of ridiculous, but they could limit his powers to make him, say, probably just as powerful as Captain Marvel. But with the Sentry comes the Void, his alter ego, which is a dark energy inside him, which he constantly battles, and is quite possibly one of the most powerful forces in all of Marvel Comics. Robert Reynolds' The Sentry is pretty much a loose cannon, as he deals with agoraphobia, the fear of going outside, and constantly battling the void within him, which makes it extremely unstable, and often times he doesn't know who he is or what he's capable of. If Marvel Studios decides to make a movie about the Sentry, I can see it being a lot like the film Memento, in which the entire movie's premise is the main character has amnesia and he's trying to figure out basically who he is, and it's just really a giant puzzle. This would make for a very interesting superhero film. And recently, actor Justin Kuxulian, I think that's how you pronounce it, posted a photo of him on Instagram with a bunch of Sentry merch, possibly alluding to the fans that he's in talks with Marvel to becoming this character, or maybe he's just petitioning to get his face out there and recognized by Marvel. Only time will tell. But that's my list for now. I have many more superheroes I wasn't able to get to in this video. I think that I'll probably do a part 2 to this, so leave a comment below as to what you think this list is missing, or what characters you'd like to see in the MCU. And also help me out by liking this video and subscribing to my channel for more content like this. And if you like comic art, you can follow me on Instagram at robsleto. Well, thank you for watching. I'll see you again soon.